Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated to a medieval Pokémon world. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 131, Kyurem's Trial. Outside the giant's cave, in the small clearing where he had set camp, Lucian gathered fallen branches and lit a fire. He and his Pokémon sat around the flickering flames for warmth. No one spoke. Serperior coiled tightly beside him, eyes lowered. Dragonair hovered silently, its long body drooping. Larvesta stared into the fire, tiny embers drifting from its wool. Victini hugged its knees, wings drooping and expression heavy. Every Pokémon was weighed down by disappointment and guilt. The defeat by Kyurem had hit them hard. Lucian looked at the four of them and let out a soft sigh. All of you, lift your heads. Do not be so discouraged. The Pokémon glanced up quietly. The opponent we fought was Kyurem, Lucian said. A legendary Pokémon whose power stands at the peak of this world. It is normal that we could not win. Serperior blinked. Dragonair tilted its head. Larvesta twitched. Victini listened intently. But listen, Lucian continued. Serperior, Dragonair, Larvesta, you have only lived in this world for 1 or 2 years. Larvesta, you are not even 3 months old yet. The Pokémon exchanged a look. Do you know how long Kyurem has lived? Dragonair gave a tentative hum, unsure. More than 1,000 years, Lucian said. It may have fallen here only a few decades ago, but its age is ancient. He let the words sink in. If we could train for 1,000 years, do you really think we would be in this situation? The Pokémon finally began to understand. So do not be discouraged. We have a long path ahead of us. As long as we continue moving forward, we will reach heights we cannot even imagine right now. Victini's ears perked up immediately. The tiny Pokémon clenched its fists with renewed determination. Yes. One day, they would stand equal to Kyurem. Seeing everyone slowly recover their spirits, Lucian felt relief. He replayed the battle in his mind. Kyurem had not fought seriously at first. Against Serperior, Dragonair, and Larvesta, it had held back noticeably. Only when Victini entered the battlefield did Kyurem unleash a portion of its true strength. That meant Kyurem was judging them. Testing them. Maybe, it had already noticed that Victini was not truly his Pokémon. Even so, that was a glimmer of hope. But the truth remained. Their strength was still far too weak. As expected, gaining Kyurem's acknowledgement will not be easy, Lucian murmured, smiling bitterly. If he had 1 or 2 years, he would feel no pressure at all. But time was against them. No matter what, we will not give up. His gaze swept the surroundings. Here, wild ice-type Pokémon roamed everywhere. Near Lucian's city, there were almost none. Serperior, Dragonair, and Larvesta had very little experience fighting ice types. In that case, Lucian said decisively, we will train here. We will master countermeasures for ice types and grow stronger, then return to challenge Kyurem. And more than that. Battling a legendary Pokémon was an opportunity few could dream of. Even if they could not win immediately, Kyurem's power was the greatest catalyst for their growth. Lucian straightened up, his resolve firm. Just at that moment, a sharp sound cut through the night. A whooshing rush of air. Before Lucian could react, Serperior whipped around, condensing an energy ball and firing it into the darkness behind them. A violent explosion erupted. Enemies. All the Pokémon instantly became alert. Lucian leapt to his feet and turned toward the smoke. 3 silhouettes stepped out. One large and muscular, shaped like a fortress of stone. One lithe and graceful, leaf-green fur shimmering. One tall and regal, its blue steel body gleaming in the firelight. Lucian recognized them instantly. The three swords of justice. Cobalion, Terrakion, Virizion. How did they end up here? And why did they seem so hostile? Lucian was full of doubt. Before he could speak, a furious voice slammed directly into his mind. Human, release those Pokémon. It was Terrakion. Like Kyurem, the three swords of justice could also use telepathy. Lucian frowned. What do you mean? Terrakion's tone sharpened. Do not act innocent. Humans wage senseless wars, destroy lands, and cause countless Pokémon to lose their homes and their lives. We have seen everything. We know your cruelty. The hostility in their eyes made everything clear. Of course. The swords of justice were born because these three had witnessed the cruelty of ancient humans. That was why they formed their group, to protect Pokémon and to oppose humans wherever they appeared. Enough talk. Your punishment comes now. Terrakion roared. A golden-brown radiance burst from its body. The energy condensed above its head, forming a gleaming sacred sword filled with righteous fury. Lucian's heart tightened. That was Sacred Sword. Terrakion was unleashing one of its strongest techniques without hesitation. Superior and Dragonair reacted instantly, darting forward. Larvesta spat burning embers. Victini shot forward in a streak of red light. Energy beams and leaves collided with Terrakion's sacred sword, but Terrakion's battle-hardened might shattered them effortlessly. Finally, Victini met Terrakion head-on. Sacred sword collided with V-Flame. Shockwaves burst through the clearing. From the cliff, Cobalion and Virizion both widened their eyes. They had seen something they had never seen before. A Pokémon willingly shielding a human with its own body. Terrakion realized this too. At the last moment, not wanting to harm Victini, it dissipated the sacred sword and leapt aside. Its anger wavered. It glared at Victini, Dragonair, Superior, and Larvesta standing protectively in front of Lucian. Why are you stopping me? I am trying to save you from this human. Save them? Dragonair's tail twitched in outrage. Superior slid forward, coiling defensively. Larvesta sparked indignantly. Victini puffed itself up, glaring with absolute conviction. Lucian had never harmed them. He had fed them, trained them, protected them, and laughed with them. They stood with him because they wanted to, not because they were forced. Lucian stepped forward and gently patted Dragonair's head, then Larvesta's. He looked at the three legendary Pokémon with calm clarity. I believe there is a misunderstanding between us. He spoke neither timidly nor arrogantly, simply stating the truth. High above, on the cliff overlooking the giant's cave, Kyurem silently observed everything. Two streams of frost drifted from its nostrils. The dragon's ancient eyes narrowed. The trial was still ongoing. Only those who possessed unyielding will, courage, and the determination to never abandon their companions could earn its acknowledgement. Chapter 132, The Challenge of the Holy Swordsman. Misunderstanding? Terrakion growled deeply. It clearly didn't believe such a thing was possible. In its eyes, all humans were the same. Terrakion, stop. Calm, composed, and carrying an aura of dignity, Cobalion, the leader of the Swords of Justice, stepped forward. Its sharp gaze swept over Lucian and the Pokémon standing protectively in front of him. The brief clash earlier had already told Cobalion one thing. This human and these Pokémon did not share the relationship Terrakion imagined. But Terrakion had seen too much cruelty. It had watched humans drive Pokémon from their homes, hunt them, enslave them. It had watched families torn apart. How could it possibly accept that any human was different? Stay out of this, Cobalion. Terrakion roared, aura surging violently as it charged forward again. Cobalion and Virizion exchanged a look, but did not interfere. Instead, they silently watched, observing Lucian's reaction. Lucian frowned. So we're doing this the hard way. Fine. He raised his hand sharply. Serperio, Leaf Storm. Serperior leapt forward, elegant yet fierce. Grass-type energy surged through its body, bursting outward in a spiraling leaf storm that tore across the battlefield. Terrakion lowered its head and roared, smashing into the storm with brute force. Blades of leaves slashed across its stone-like hide, leaving countless cuts. Terrakion flinched, this was actually hurting it. Serperior might not compare to Kyurem, but Terrakion was no Kyurem. Especially not in this era long before its future strength. Terrakion gathered power above its head and slashed downward, breaking the storm apart. But Lucian's voice rang out immediately. Again! Leaf Storm. A second storm of leaves detonated across the battlefield. Terrakion swung its sacred sword to block again, but its eyes widened. The attack was stronger. Much stronger. Serperior's contrary ability meant every leaf storm made it even stronger. Terrakion's wounds deepened. Its footing faltered. It roared in frustration, then slammed its hooves into the earth. Pebbles rose into the air, sharpened into jagged stones, and launched toward Lucian and Serperior in a deadly barrage. Lucian didn't flinch. Leaf Storm. The third leaf storm erupted like a hurricane. Empowered by its ability, the attack was monstrous. Green light collided with the shower of stones. The explosion echoed through the mountains, and then, Terrakion was engulfed. Ah! Terrakion collapsed onto one knee, its entire body marked with cuts and bruises. Its breath trembled. It stared at Serperior in shock. Lucian stepped forward, voice steady. Can you listen now? Terrakion froze. Lucian met its gaze, unwavering. I haven't harmed any Pokémon. Everything you believe I've done is wrong. He took a slow breath. I am Lucian, third prince of the kingdom of Eindhoek. And I'm building a place where humans and Pokémon live together as equals. Lucian reached into his bag and pulled out a bottle. A full healing potion. Made by Lila and the Joy sisters. He tossed it gently in front of Terrakion. Drink it. Your wounds will heal. Upon hearing Lucian's words, the three swords of justice were stunned. Terrakion glanced at the healing potion at its feet, gritted its teeth, and snarled. Don't try to deceive us with such lies. Before Lucian could respond, Dragonair snapped back angrily. Woo! Lucian is telling the truth. He built a place where humans and Pokémon live together happily. Beside it, Larvesta flared up, flames flickering. Larvesta! You're the ones attacking without reason. We've never hurt anyone. Pokémon, speaking up for a human? All three swordsmen froze. They had saved countless Pokémon from human cruelty. They had seen how frightened and broken Pokémon became after abuse. But these Pokémon. They didn't just trust Lucian. They defended him. It was the exact opposite of everything the swordsman believed about humans. Lucian, tired from the battle, kicked dirt over the dying campfire. He didn't have time to argue. He turned to leave, intent on finding ice-type Pokémon for special training. The swordsman silently watched his retreating figure. Just then, Cobalion called out. Wait. Lucian stopped and turned his head. What you said earlier, was all of it true? Cobalion asked. Lucian exhaled, exhausted. If you want to know, go see for yourselves. Head southwest, you'll reach my territory. The sincerity in the Pokémon's voices, the way they protected Lucian, the swordsman already believed most of what had been said. Lucian continued, gaze steady. I don't have time to waste arguing with you. A war that will engulf this entire region is coming. The swordsman flinched. Lucian went on, voice low. Behind the two princes leading this war stand Reshiram and Zekrom. Their power is no less than Kyurem's. A heavy silence fell. If you want to protect the Pokémon of this land, Lucian said, don't spend your strength attacking the wrong people. Realization flickered in Cobalion's eyes. So you came to challenge Kyurem, to borrow its strength? Lucian gave a small nod. Then he turned and walked away without another word. The three swordsmen stared at his silhouette as it faded into the snowy darkness. Only when he was completely out of sight did Terrakion slowly force itself upright. That guy. Then, as if trying to vent its frustration, it stomped down on the small vial of medicine. Crack! Green fluid splashed upward and slipped into Terrakion's mouth. It swallowed reflexively and froze. Its wounds began to close. The cuts sealed. Its bruises faded. Terrakion blinked in disbelief. Cobalion and Verizion, calm until now, widened their eyes. At that moment, they completely believed what the human had just said. Perhaps he really wasn't lying. Chapter 133, Icefall Training. Dragonair, dodge. A blast of ice beam shot from the nearby mountains. The wild beartick barreled forward, frost swirling around its fangs. Hearing Lucien's voice, Dragonair twisted its long body midair, narrowly avoiding the beam before counterattacking with a burst of scorching dragon breath. The flames singed Beartic's fur, making it grunt with irritation. Then, abandoning ranged attacks, it lunged in close, claws raised high. Dragon Tail. Dragonair's tail glowed violet as it swung forward, colliding with Beartic's heavy blow. The impact sent both Pokémon skidding backward across the icy ground. But Beartic recovered faster. Before Dragonair could lift itself upright, another ice beam erupted toward it, cold, fast, merciless. Under the brutal type disadvantage, Dragonair cried out and collapsed, instantly losing its ability to battle. The fight was over. Beartic happily scooped up the 3 berries Lucien had offered as payment, gave a satisfied grunt, and lumbered away. Lucien let out a breath. As expected, ice types are overwhelmingly strong against both Dragonair and Superior. He knelt, giving Dragonair a healing potion and letting Larvesta warm Dragonair's chilled body with its natural heat. Lucien sat in silence, thinking carefully. In the battle with Kyurem, the problem wasn't only Kyurem's overwhelming power. The extreme cold of the ice arena itself was crippling. The environment had practically halved his team's performance. Cold slowed blood flow. Muscles stiffened. Reflexes dulled. Even Superior's elegant movements became sluggish. Before anything else, Dragonair and I need to adapt to extreme cold, Lucien thought. Then he remembered a spot on the way here. A waterfall, one so cold that steam didn't rise from it. Instead, a thin mist of icy air lingered above the water. A perfect training ground. After a short rest, Lucien brought his Pokémon there. Standing before the roaring icefall, he turned to them. Dragonair, Superior, the training from here on might be brutal. If you can't handle it, don't force yourselves, get out immediately, alright? He paused, then smiled gently. But don't worry. I'll be with you. The Pokémon blinked in confusion. Then they realized what he meant. Lucien stepped toward the waterfall, took a deep breath, and leapt straight into the freezing water. The shock hit him instantly. HSSS. So cold. Seeing their trainer shivering under the icy torrent, the Pokémon finally understood. Dragonair dove in first, positioning itself beside Lucien. Even though the cold stabbed into its body like needles, it forced itself to endure, for Lucien. Superior followed, slipping gracefully into the waterfall despite the biting chill. Larvesta hesitated at the edge, trembling, then finally crawled forward and buried itself in Lucien's chest, heating itself to warm him as best it could. Nini. Victini panicked, flying frantically above the water. It wanted to join him immediately, but Lucien raised a trembling hand. Victini, the others need this training more. Stay on shore. Keep watch. But Victini's eyes were full of distress. It couldn't just sit there while Lucien froze. After a second of hesitation, Victini clenched its paws and dove straight into the waterfall. A burst of bright orange warmth spread outward. Victini's innate ability, Victory Star, surged to life. A wave of warm, fiery energy poured into Lucien and the Pokémon, fortifying their bodies and staving off the cold. Lucian felt the burning warmth rush through his limbs. Victini hovered close, trembling from the cold but determined. "If any of you feel faint, get out immediately," Lucian shouted over the roaring water. "Woo!" Every Pokémon answered, gritting their teeth against the chill, pushing themselves to adapt. High above on the cliff, half hidden by swirling frost, Kyurem watched quietly. The icy wind billowed from its nostrils. Poof! Its tone was cold, yet beneath it lingered a faint, unreadable warmth. Then its enormous body turned, and it walked deeper into the mountains. Time passed. Between the brutal icefall training and constant battles in the frozen wilderness, both Lucian and Dragonair began to slowly, steadily, adapt to the extreme environment. Gradually, the cold affected them less and less. Their endurance beneath the icefall lengthened each day. Meanwhile, deep within the giant's cave, a fierce battle had just ended. Terrakion, Cobalion, and Virizion, covered in cuts and scrapes, panting heavily, faced the massive ice dragon looming before them. Despite their wounds, Terrakion grinned broadly, satisfied with the results of their intense sparring. "Thank you, Your Excellency." Virizion and Cobalion both dipped their heads respectfully, expressing gratitude to the stoic Kyurem. Their training was complete. Though they had been defeated, the lessons learned were invaluable. Their mastery over the sacred sword technique had sharpened noticeably. Kyurem's voice rumbled like shifting glacier ice. Yet, it did not leave. Seeing this, Cobalion blinked in surprise before stepping forward and asking with quiet respect, "Does Your Excellency have more to say?" Kyurem fixed its cold, glowing eyes on them. For a long moment, only silence filled the cavern. Then its deep, ancient voice resonated directly into their minds. "On your way here, you encountered a human, didn't you?" "A human?" At once, all three remembered him. Lucian. Terrakion shifted in embarrassment. Blinded by old grudges and instinctive hatred for humans, it had attacked rashly. Without listening. Without understanding. If it met him again, Terrakion knew it owed him a proper apology. Cobalion asked steadily, "What concerns him, Your Excellency?" Kyurem's response echoed with a solemn, irresistible majesty. "I need you to guide him." The three froze. Guide, a human? Kyurem exhaled swirling frost. Though it lacked its true body, only an empty shell, it still possessed the power to sense the flow of fate. And it had seen a future shaped by that young human. His ideals, courage, and truth would fill Kyurem's hollow being. Would restore what it had lost. Would grant it the strength to become whole again. And the world itself would change because of him. The swordsman stood speechless for a long moment. Then Cobalion bowed deeply. "We understand." Dragonair, Thunderbolt. At Lucian's command, Dragonair unleashed a brilliant burst of electricity. The lightning bolt blasted through a wild weevil, leaving it unconscious in the snow. Lucian smiled and stroked Dragonair's head. "Good job. You've improved a lot." "Woo!" Dragonair chirped proudly. Superior flicked her tail with elegant satisfaction. Larvesta buzzed with excitement. Victini pumped its little fists Nini. But suddenly, a loud, familiar voice echoed from atop a nearby boulder. "Hey! That kind of strength still won't beat Kyurem." Lucian turned quickly. Standing on the rock were the three holy swordsmen, Cobalion in the center, Virizion beside him, and Terrakion grinning widely. Lucian blinked. Terrakion, who had attacked him days ago, leaped off the boulder, landing with a heavy thud. It walked straight up to Lucian, scratched its cheek awkwardly, then bowed its massive head. "Human. I was wrong that day." Its booming voice softened with sincerity. "I apologize." Chapter 134, The Legacy of the Holy Swordsman. Terrakion, apologizing? Lucian blinked in surprise as the towering Pokémon approached him with its head lowered. But considering the era, the relationship between humans and Pokémon, and the mission of the Holy Swordsman, Terrakion's past hostility was understandable. It wasn't personal hatred. It was instinct, born from witnessing countless humans hurt Pokémon, destroy their homes, enslave them. I don't blame you, Lucian said quietly, shaking his head. Then he looked up at the other two, Cobalion and Virizion, standing behind Terrakion. But, how did you find me? Cobalion leapt down from the boulder with composed grace, walking toward Lucian. What you said that day, Cobalion asked, was it true? Of course. Lucian nodded. Humans and Pokémon shouldn't hate each other like this. In truth, our goals don't conflict at all. You three fight humans to protect Pokémon. And I'm trying to build a place where humans and Pokémon can live together. A place where humans and Pokémon can live together. The Holy Swordsman froze. Virizion tilted its head, puzzled. What would such a place even look like? Lucian smiled faintly, then described it slowly, like painting a picture. Humans and Pokémon living side by side. Grass-type Pokémon tending the fields with farmers, bringing rich harvests. Fire-types helping cooks light stoves and prepare warm meals. Strong Pokémon helping with construction, carrying stone and timber to build homes together. In spring, humans and Pokémon plow the fields. In summer, they cool off under shaded eaves. In autumn, they celebrate the harvest side by side. And in winter, when the snow falls, they sit indoors together around the hearth. No war. No oppression. No slavery. Just cooperation, shared strength, and everyone living as friends, partners, even family. Quiet filled the clearing. After a long silence, Virizion whispered, "That sounds beautiful." Terrakion let out a booming laugh. Makes me want to see it myself. Cobalion closed its eyes. Yet all we have seen are humans hurting Pokémon. That's why I came to find Kyurem's power, Lucian replied calmly. If you don't believe me, come see my territory for yourselves. Eventually, we will. Virizion stepped forward. But not right now. We have sensed your conviction, human. If you truly wish to turn that ideal into reality, then allow us to help you. Lucian blinked. They believed him? Terrakion puffed up proudly. Leave it to me. Last time I held back so I wouldn't crush your Pokémon. This time, let me show you my real strength. Lucian. Cobalion stepped forward again. We witnessed your battle with Kyurem. With your current power, you cannot defeat him. Lucian lowered his gaze. He already knew that. So, Cobalion continued, the three of us will teach you everything we've mastered, the techniques of the sacred swordsman. Lucian's breath caught. This was the Holy Swordsman's legacy. Their fighting techniques, the ones they once passed on to Keldeo. His heart pounded. The swordsmen were offering to train him. After a brief discussion, the three Pokémon arranged the training pairs. Cobalion Serperior. Virizion Dragonair. Terrakion Larvesta. The first day began in a field of tall grass. Cobalion and Serperior stood facing one another. Serperior's posture was proud, but her ruby eyes betrayed a flicker of tension. Cobalion lowered its head slightly and said in a calm, deep voice. Serperior, learn from your failures. In the rugged stone valley, Terrakion stood firmly on a boulder, grinning at the small Larvesta opposite it. Never take your eyes off your enemy, it boomed, its tone both cheerful and commanding. In the shadowed wetlands beneath the towering trees, Virizion emitted a gentle emerald glow as it regarded Dragonair softly. Overcome your fear, it whispered, voice light as wind brushing through leaves. Farther away, in a clearing between pillars of rock and ice, Cobalion faced Serperior. Its expression was calm and solemn, every movement a lesson in control and precision. And thus, 3 training battles began at the same time. Lucian stood with Victini on a high boulder, gazing down at the scene unfolding below. 3 Pokémon, Dragonair, Serperior, and Larvesta, moved rapidly across the terrain as the Holy Swordsman guided them. It was less like a battle and more like a masterclass in movement, discipline, and technique. Jumping. Dodging. Attacking with the minimum force for maximum effect. Reading an opponent's intent. Holding one's ground with courage. Striking only when the moment is right. They passed down every scrap of their battle-hardened experience, brute strength from Terrakion, refined precision from Cobalion, and graceful strategy from Virizion. Lucian couldn't help but let out a low breath. No wonder they were able to train Keldeo. As he watched the swordsman move, a bold idea surfaced in his mind. The war to come would not involve just humans. Every Pokémon and human in Unova would be dragged into the chaos, including these three sacred swordsmen. What if he could invite them to join his territory? Their mission was to protect Pokémon, his mission was to create a place where humans and Pokémon lived together peacefully. Those two desires weren't opposed, they complemented each other perfectly. Humans and Pokémon united, if he could rally every force he could, Victini, the sacred swordsman, his growing Pokémon army. Then even if Kyurem ultimately rejected him, he still wouldn't be powerless. Lucian's heart beat faster as the idea grew clearer. He would need to grow stronger first, elevate his team, and challenge Kyurem again. But afterward, he would invite the swordsmen to Lucian City. Let them see, with their own eyes, how humans and Pokémon lived side by side. Let them witness a town where cooperation replaced cruelty, and friendship replaced fear. If they saw that, their hostility toward humans might soften. Chapter 135, Superior vs. Kyurem. Lucian stepped into the icy cavern once more. Staring into the darkness wrapped in freezing mist, he called out, "Kyurem, we're back. Come out and face us." Silence answered for a moment. Then, from the depths, heavy footsteps echoed and grew louder. Soon, Kyurem's frigid silhouette emerged from the shadows. Frosty mist expanded outward, and a numbing cold swept across the entire cavern. The once still water froze in an instant. Ice walls rose, and within a heartbeat, the frozen battlefield reconstructed itself before Lucian's eyes. Humph! Kyurem's gaze locked onto him. "You are no match for me. Even now, you refuse to give up?" "I can't give up," Lucian answered firmly. "I'm not fighting for myself alone. Kyurem, let's battle." "Humph, very well." The boundary Pokémon snorted. "Enter the gate once more." Lucian stepped through the shimmering doorway again. A bitter chill surged over him, the kind that could freeze the world itself. But his training during the recent Icefall trials left him almost unfazed. Dragonair and the others handled it just as well. Ignoring the cold, Lucian drew Superior's Pokeball. Superior vs. Kyurem. The battle began. Kyurem eyed Superior coldly and, just like before, lunged forward with Shadow Claw. "The same opening move?" Lucian murmured. He nodded toward Superior, they had prepared for this. Perfectly synchronized with its trainer, Superior remained motionless. The ice arena was wide, and Kyurem still had distance to close. For Shadow Claw to connect, it had to charge. Kyurem immediately sensed something was off. But before it could react, something tugged sharply at its foot. Its massive body crashed forward from its own momentum. A grass knot. "Superior, Leaf Storm," Lucian called. His plan had worked, time to press the advantage. Green energy surged from Superior, exploding into a violent storm of grass-type power that howled toward Kyurem. But Kyurem merely stood up as if nothing had happened. With a roar, it unleashed a burst of pressure that blew the storm apart. It glanced at Lucian with icy disdain. Improvement, but nowhere near enough. Lucian's heart tightened. Kyurem was still overwhelmingly strong. Kyurem roared. A freezing beam erupted toward Superior. "Superior, dodge!" Lucian commanded. The beam tore across the field. Superior darted aside as the attack slammed into the ground. Rumble! A shockwave of cold raged outward, freezing the very air. Tower-sized ice pillars erupted across the battlefield. Superior weaved between them, using speed and terrain to evade the deadly beam. "No!" Lucian grit his teeth. Superior's grass typing puts it at a huge disadvantage. Even its strongest Leaf Storm barely scratches Kyurem. Superior didn't have many non-grass moves available. What could he do? His eyes drifted to the newly formed ice pillars. The terrain. Superior! Lucian shouted. Use Vine Whip. Take advantage of the terrain. Terrain? Superior glanced around, massive pillars of ice surrounded them. It instantly understood. While evading Kyurem's attacks, it maneuvered intentionally, luring Kyurem beneath the towering ice structures. All you do is run? Kyurem growled, smashing apart the ice pillars with its claws. At that moment, two slender vines shot out from Superior's body. Like serpents, they coiled around the weakened pillars above, and tightened with all their strength. Crack! A sharp crack echoed from inside the weakened pillar. With a thunderous crash, the massive block of ice collapsed and slammed down onto Kyurem. The legendary dragon staggered under the impact. Lucian didn't hesitate. Now! Leaf Storm! Every point of damage mattered. A violent green tempest roared forth again, surging straight toward Kyurem. Kyurem roared in return, and this time, its voice manifested as a physical blast. The entire cavern shook violently as a powerful shockwave tore outward. Nearly every remaining ice pillar shattered in an instant, and Superior was blown backward by the force. That attack, hyper voice. Lucian's eyes widened. Superior! Dodge! But Kyurem was already on the move. The massive dragon lunged forward, its claws glowing with ghostly energy. Shadow Claw struck like a guillotine, sending the already struggling Superior skidding violently across the ice once more. After the strike, Kyurem paused. Its colossal frame stood unmoving, a mountain of ancient, chilling power. Its voice rumbled coldly. Is this the extent of your strength? Lucian clenched his teeth. In that moment, the same emotion burned in both his heart and Superior's. Refusal. Unwillingness. No. Superior could not fall, not while Lucian still believed in it. Though severely injured, Superior's fighting spirit ignited once more. With determination burning in its emerald eyes, it forced itself upright again. A flicker of approval appeared in Kyurem's icy gaze. Good. Very good, the boundary Pokémon growled. Again. Lucian blinked, Kyurem's tone, the restraint behind its blows, he finally understood. As he suspected, Kyurem wasn't using its full power. If it had been serious from the start, Superior wouldn't have survived even a single direct hit. And now, after two Leaf Storms, Superior's contrary ability had nearly maxed out its special attack. This chance couldn't be wasted. Superior, Leaf Storm. A third Emerald Cyclone erupted. This time, Kyurem countered with Dragon Pulse. A surge of draconic energy burst from its mouth, forming a spiraling wave of violet force. The attack tore across the icy arena and collided head-on with Superior's massively boosted Leaf Storm. The moment they struck, the two powers exploded violently, locked in a dead-even struggle of Grass-type fury versus Dragon-type might. Lucian narrowed his eyes. So it really is holding back. His thoughts gradually steadied. Encounters with legendary Pokémon were rare. Just witnessing their attacks, their aura, their presence, it was all priceless training. If Kyurem intended to restrain itself and act as a sparring partner, then Lucian would make full use of this opportunity. He would treat Kyurem as the perfect, once-in-a-lifetime legendary training opponent. Chapter 136, Dragonite. Even though Kyurem had gone easy on Superior, it was still a legendary Pokémon, the strongest dragon of the Unova region. And with Superior covered in wounds, it finally collapsed, unable to continue. But Lucian wasn't discouraged. Nor was he disappointed. He and Superior had given everything they had. And judging by Superior's performance, this battle had given it invaluable experience. Lucian knelt and gently stroked Superior's head. The exhausted Pokémon weakly opened its eyes. You worked hard, Superior, he said softly. You did great. Rest now. Superior let out a faint sound of acknowledgement before returning to its pokeball in a beam of red light. From a short distance away, Kiram watched the scene silently, its expression unreadable behind its icy exterior. Lucian put away Superior's ball and drew another. Kiram, he called, please continue guiding me. The moment the words left his mouth, Dragonair's slender, elegant form burst from the pokeball. The second battle, Dragonair vs. Kiram, officially began. Dragonair's gaze locked onto the dragon before it. A memory flashed in its mind. The last time it faced Kiram, it had barely emerged before the cold froze it instantly. Learn from your failures. Cobalion's voice echoed in its thoughts, and Dragonair's eyes hardened with determination. Kiram noticed Dragonair's sharpened resolve. It narrowed its eyes and growled. Now that Lucian knew Kiram was holding back, his courage felt steadier. He wanted to see how Dragonair's current strength compared to a true legendary dragon. Dragonair, slam. Tail strike. Energy rippled along Dragonair's tail as it whipped it toward Kiram. Oh? A tail strike? Kiram rumbled. Then I'll use that move as well. The boundary Pokémon turned, its massive tail sweeping around. The two tails, one enormous, one slender, collided in midair. But Dragonair was far outmatched. The sheer force sent it flying backward almost instantly. As expected, the difference is still too great. Lucian clenched his jaw, then shifted tactics. Dragonair, agility. Hoof. Kiram snorted, unleashing a blazing ray of energy, Ice Beam, from its mouth. But Dragonair spread its small wings, its flight speed boosted sharply by agility. It wove rapidly around the frozen arena, dodging one icy blast after another. Under Lucian's command, it launched a counterattack, hurling itself downward coated in draconic energy. Dragon Rush! But as the charged Dragonair dove toward it, Kiram's eyes remained cold. It swung a claw, striking directly into the oncoming attack with brutal force. Dragonair cried out as it was knocked across the ice again. Weak, far too weak, Kiram declared, gazing down with absolute dominance. Then it leapt upward, its massive body hovering above the ground. In the next instant, a torrent of raw, overwhelming draconic energy erupted from its body. Then let me show you what a true dragon is. Kiram roared. A monstrous wave of dragon-type pressure crashed across the entire cavern, dense and crushing, the pure essence of an ancient, perfect dragon. The force submerged Dragonair completely. Its body trembled. Its breath caught. The pressure was suffocating. Kiram's draconic presence was far, far greater than anything Dragonair had ever faced. But Lucian sensed something else. Kiram appeared to be attacking, yet it wasn't actually striking. It was waiting. Dragonair! Lucian shouted, realization clicking into place. Feel it, that dragon aura. Ugh. Dragonair gritted its teeth, its whole body shaking violently as it fought the suffocating force. It refused to collapse. For Lucian, to protect him, to help him reach his goals, it had to become stronger. Memories flashed through Dragonair's mind. Lucian carrying it through blizzards, Lucian warming it beside a crackling fireplace, Lucian praising it when they caught fish together, Lucian's excitement each time it shed its skin, and the countless nights where the two fell asleep in each other's arms. And now, under Lucian's months of grueling training, under the guidance of the three swords of justice, and under Kiram's overwhelming draconic pressure, Dragonair suddenly burst into radiant, dazzling light. That was... Outside the battlefield, Cobalion, Terrakion, and Virizion widened their eyes in shock. Even Kiram's usually emotionless gaze flickered. Good, very good. This was the moment it had been waiting for. Inside the pillar of light, Dragonair's body rapidly changed. Its slender, serpentine form grew rounder and sturdier. Powerful limbs took shape. Its skin shifted to an orange-yellow hue. Two delicate antennae appeared atop its head, along with a small dragon horn. A pair of strong, membrane wings unfurled from its back and a thick, powerful tail swayed behind it. Purple wisps of draconic energy spiraled around Dragonair. Kyurem's pure dragon aura flowed continuously into its evolving body. No, it was no longer Dragonair. It had become Dragonite, a kind-hearted yet terrifyingly powerful pseudo-legendary dragon. As the evolution light faded, a pair of bright, determined black eyes opened, filled with the same conviction Lucian had always carried. Dragonite lifted its head and locked onto Kyurem. Kyurem's ancient, resonant voice echoed through the cavern. "The time has come, dragon who protects faith, witness your true power." Kyurem sensed something remarkable, a power within Dragonite that felt deeply connected to Lucian's own. The legendary dragon roared in excitement. "Show me your true might. This is a real battle." "Whoa!" Dragonite answered, wings snapping open. This time, it released a fearsome draconic aura and launched itself toward Kyurem. Kyurem raised its head, energy swirling in its jaws. Pure dragon-type power condensed and erupted into a dragon pulse, firing straight at Dragonite. The shockwave collided with Dragonite in midair. But even before the might of a legendary dragon pulse, Dragonite did not retreat. "Perfect. That's it, Dragonite!" Lucian shouted, excitement overflowing. Hearing Lucian's voice, Dragonite's eyes sharpened. Its muscles surged with power, and, unbelievably, it began pushing Kyurem's dragon pulse back. It was overpowering a legendary's attack. Dragonite had broken through Kyurem's dragon pulse. Kyurem's pupils shrank. At that moment, it felt something, a powerful belief radiating from both Dragonite and Lucian. That belief seeped into Kyurem's body, filling the emptiness within its incomplete form. Kyurem felt its strength rising, and for the first time, it seemed momentarily dazed. The next instant, Dragon Pulse shattered completely. Dragonite, wrapped in a terrifying aura, slammed into Kyurem's massive body and sent the boundary Pokémon skidding backward several meters. "What?" Outside the arena, Terrakion, Virizion, and Cobalion stared in disbelief, their eyes glowing with admiration and shock. Chapter 137, Kyurem joins the team. Kyurem staggered from the impact, but quickly rose again. Its eyes flashed with excitement as it stared at the newly evolved Dragonite and let out a thunderous roar. "The battle isn't over." With that declaration, Kyurem sprang upward, releasing a surge of overwhelming pressure. Kyurem's true power. Facing the Dragonair who had evolved into Dragonite, Kyurem finally unleashed its full strength. Icy mist erupted around it, and freezing winds burst forth, cold enough to freeze the entire world. "Evade! Then use Dragon Pulse!" Lucian shouted sharply. Dragonite's speed ranked among the highest of all Pokémon. The moment the icy winds surged toward it, Dragonite rose sharply and banked upward, dodging the attack before firing a violet Dragon Pulse straight at Kyurem. A direct hit. But Kyurem retaliated instantly, firing a blazing ice beam. Dragonite boosted its speed further, weaving frantically through the air. But this time, Kyurem wasn't holding back. It tilted its massive head, the ice beam curved midair, tracking Dragonite relentlessly. Boom! Lucian's heart tightened. Dragonite was 4 times weak to ice. A single ice beam could deal catastrophic damage. Dragonite froze on impact, its body encased in ice, crashing into the frozen arena with a deafening thud. Poof! Kyurem exhaled a frosty breath from its nostrils. "It's over." So even this wasn't enough. Terrakion murmured. Cobalion and Virizion also weren't too disappointed. Training took time, and Dragonite had already grown far beyond what it once was. But then they heard Lucian shouting. "Dragonite! Don't give up! We haven't lost yet!" The 3 swords of justice blinked in surprise. Kyurem's gaze deepened. It let out a low, curious rumble, almost expectant. Suddenly, a crack formed in the ice around Dragonite. Crack! The entire shell shattered. Dragonite burst into the sky once more. It held on? The swords of justice were stunned. Lucian's expression sharpened. Their training in the icefall, it worked. Dragonite had developed resistance to cold and even ice-type energy. Oof. Kyurem snorted, but this time, there was unmistakable approval in its voice. In that case, let's continue. But Dragonite was at its limit. Its body trembled, covered in wounds, its breath ragged. It was purely willpower keeping it aloft. Lucian knew Dragonite would eventually lose. So he made his decision. Dragonite, Lucian said softly. Dragonite turned toward him. Outrage. Use everything you have. Show Kyurem our full power. Woohoo! Dragonite roared fiercely. Red draconic energy exploded around its body, the terrifying, berserk aura of outrage. The red aura flared like burning fury, wrapping around Dragonite, seeping into its eyes, tinting them crimson. With a roar that shook the cavern, Dragonite charged straight toward Kyurem. Outrage, a full force, all an attack that concentrated every ounce of strength into one decisive blow. Kyurem's gaze sharpened. It didn't dodge. Instead, it gathered its own energy. Instantly, an ancient, primal aura erupted from its body, temperatures plummeting in a single breath. Icy mist spiraled outward. Kyurem roared and charged. Glaciate. Its strongest technique. The two dragons collided. Dragonite's raging red aura clashed violently with Kyurem's freezing storm. Crack. Frost spread at the point of impact. In an instant, half of Dragonite's arm froze solid. But Dragonite roared, swung its claws, and shattered the ice. Then, with a final surge of power, it slammed into Kyurem, knocking the Pokémon backward several meters. But the freezing mist had already seeped deep into Dragonite's body. Almost instantly, Dragonite froze again, still mid-outrage stance, its expression locked in fierce determination. Kyurem slowly straightened, its voice echoing through the cavern. You've lost. Lucian felt no disappointment. He had already achieved what he came for. Kyurem then looked at Dragonite, and a rare note of admiration colored its usually cold tone. It's a good dragon. The battle had finally come to an end. Lucian hurried over and summoned Larvesta, having it melt the thick ice encasing Dragonite's body. Then he fed Dragonite several potions, one for frostbite, one for healing wounds, and one to restore stamina. Before long, Dragonite's eyes fluttered open, weak but conscious. Ha! Lucian gently rubbed its soft, slightly chubby cheek and smiled. You worked hard, Dragonite. You did amazingly well. Rest now. Ha! With a relieved sigh, Dragonite closed its eyes and drifted into a peaceful sleep. Rumble. The surrounding ice walls sank slowly into the ground. Kyurem had dispersed the ice arena. Standing atop the frozen lake, its massive figure dominating the cavern, Kyurem fixed its gaze on Lucian. Thank you, Kyurem, Lucian said with a sincere grin. He fully understood Kyurem's intentions. The legendary dragon had been training them on purpose. This trip had been far more fruitful than he had hoped. They had met the three swords of justice, who shared his beliefs. Dragonair had evolved into Dragonite. And even if Kyurem refused him in the end, Lucian already felt satisfied. At that moment, Cobalion, Virizion, and Terrakion approached, standing quietly beside Lucian. Kyurem looked at the group and spoke again, its ancient voice echoing through the cavern. To stand before me with such strength. Your courage is remarkable. Human, what you said earlier, was it true? Lucian raised his head, meeting Kyurem's gaze. He spoke slowly, but firmly. Reshiram and Zekrom have awakened. Their chosen humans have already become enemies. Soon, a war will sweep across this region. When that happens, countless humans and Pokémon will die. I don't want to see that future. My goal is to survive in that chaos, but also to protect the people who stand behind me. I want humans and Pokémon to coexist peacefully. To change this world, and create one where humans and Pokémon can truly live together. Silence fell across the giant's chasm. Kyurem watched him quietly. Only after a long, heavy pause did it finally speak, its voice solemn and resonant. I have sensed your conviction. In that case, human, I shall entrust my power to you. Chapter 138, The Monster Incident in Lacunosa Village. After the battle, Lucian and the others took a short rest in the wilderness outside the Giant's Chasm. Superior and Dragonite were badly wounded. Even after using healing medicine, their physical exhaustion lingered, so Lucian returned them to their Pokeballs to rest properly. Without realizing it, a whole month has passed since I left the territory. It's time to go home, Lucian thought. He turned to the three swords of justice behind him and extended an invitation. Cobalion, Virizion, Terrakion were heading back to Lucian City. Would you like to come with us and see the city I've been building? Heh, I've been looking forward to it. Terrakion grinned with excitement. In that case, we will trouble you, Cobalion replied with formal courtesy. Virizion simply smiled, eyes filled with anticipation. A short distance away, Kyurem remained silent, watching. Lucian glanced at it, but he knew they had one more matter to settle before heading home. The monster incident in Lacunosa Village. The villagers believed Kyurem had come at night and eaten people. Lucian looked up at Kyurem and asked, Kyurem, since arriving on this planet, have you ever visited that village? I rarely leave my cave. I have never gone to a human settlement, Kyurem's deep, resonant voice replied. Lucian let out a breath of relief. As he suspected, the man-eating monster wasn't Kyurem. However, Kyurem's appearance alone was terrifying enough that bringing it to the village openly would only cause panic. Lucian paused to think, then took out a special Pokeball made from an apricorn. Kyurem, could you enter this for now? Kyurem looked at the ball for a moment, then calmly transformed into a beam of light and entered it. The scene Lucian had imagined, Kyurem instantly breaking the Pokeball, never happened. Of course. A legendary of Kyurem's caliber could easily control its power. That made things far easier. Lacunosa Village. Lucian and the three swords of justice arrived smoothly. The villagers who saw him first lit up with relief and joy. Master Beast Master. But when their eyes fell on the three legendary Pokémon behind him, their expressions twisted into horror. Beasts. The swords of justice. No need to panic, Lucian reassured them. They're my friends. Only then did the villagers realize these beasts were actually the noble Pokémon their Master Beast Master commanded. Master, thank goodness you're safe. The villagers were overwhelmed with relief. Half a month ago, Lucian had gone into the mountains to help them repel a monster, but he had never returned. Many feared he had been eaten. Some villagers had tried forming a search party, but they heard a terrible scream partway into the mountain and fled back in terror. Village chief, Lucian asked, turning to the old man who had taken him in, while I was gone, did anyone go missing? The old chief shook his head. Thankfully, Beastmaster, no. Not a single villager has disappeared in the past 2 weeks. Lucian exhaled in relief. As darkness fell, the chief invited Lucian and his group to stay the night and prepared a hearty dinner. During the meal, Lucian requested the record of missing villagers over the years and began reviewing the list. As he skimmed the names, Cobalion finally asked, what exactly happened in this village? In the past few decades, people have been disappearing from this village one after another. The villagers believe they were eaten by Pokémon, Lucian explained succinctly. Pokémon eat humans? All three swords of justice were visibly stunned. Lucian nodded, organizing his thoughts before continuing. There are over 1,000 Pokémon species in this world, just like humans. Some are good, and some are dangerous. Just as humans can enslave or harm Pokémon, some Pokémon can harm humans. For example, the Chandelure line, they literally consume human souls. Or the Sandile and Mandibuzz in the desert that prey on travelers. Cobalion, Terrakion, and Virizion were taken aback. They had never considered the matter so broadly. But Lucian was right, the world of Pokémon was vast and diverse, and conflict among species was natural. Everything has two sides, Lucian said, noticing their troubled expressions.
Pokémon sometimes hurt humans, and out of fear, humans sometimes hurt Pokémon. It's unavoidable. But if we keep working at it, I believe we can change the way humans and Pokémon see each other. He smiled softly. Like the utopian world depicted in the anime. Pokémon are intelligent. They have emotions, memories, and instincts. If even one ancestor witnesses harmony between humans and Pokémon, that memory becomes a seed, passed down generation after generation. A seed that teaches their descendants, humans feed us, help us grow, fight beside us, and protect us. That kind of world can't be created in 1 or 2 generations, Lucian thought. Reaching it will require conflicts, setbacks, and time. The 3 swords of justice grew silent, deep in thought. Lucian's words struck them far more deeply than he realized. For the first time, they questioned whether they themselves had misunderstood humanity. Lucian smiled lightly and added, "What we need to do is convey our ideas to all humans in Pokémon, so that everyone can understand each other correctly, and know that humans and Pokémon don't necessarily have to fight. We can coexist peacefully and live together in this world." The 3 swords of justice looked at him and suddenly understood something. Humans were not as black and white as they once believed. Lucian was proof of that. At that moment, Lucian's eyes narrowed. Something strange stood out in the list of missing villagers. Most of the missing individuals over the years were handsome, strong young men. This pattern triggered a memory in Lucian's mind. A certain Pokémon. Frostless. Frostless Ice/Ghost type. A Pokémon said to be born from the spirit of a woman who perished on a snowy mountain, binding itself to an icicle. Some legends said she was the reincarnation of a woman who died alone in the cold. Lucian remembered its Pokédex entry clearly. On blizzard nights, Frostless would descend the mountains and knock on the doors of human homes. Anyone who answered would be greeted with breath cold enough to freeze them instantly, and then carried back to its den as decoration. Frostless was said to target handsome men in particular. Some regions even had rumors of Frostless using ghostly curses to punish misbehaving men. Chapter 139, Frostless. At 6 p.m., as dusk settled over Lacunosa village, every villager hurried home, shutting their doors and windows tightly. Night was approaching, and with it, danger. Lucian stayed in the old village chief's house as usual. The elderly couple had kindly prepared a room for him. He lay on the wooden bed, with the 3 swords of justice resting on the floor beside him like silent guardians. Kyurem and Dragonite remained in their pokeballs, recovering. But, speaking of Kyurem, Lucian's mind stirred. A familiar wave of system information surfaced. Kyurem. Type, Dragon/Ice. Gender, genderless. Ability, Pressure. Moves. Dragon Rage, Icy Wind, Ancient Power, Shadow Claw, Dragon Claw, Dragon Tail, Ice Beam, Dragon Breath, Slash, Dragon Pulse, Blizzard, Hyper Voice, Icy Wind, Stone Edge, Hail, Rest, Snowscape, Avalanche, Imprison, Outrage, Freeze Dry, Absolute Zero, Glaciate. Friendship, 50/100, can exceed 100 under special conditions. Kyurem, Biography. Year 0, an unknown era. The Dragon of the Path, Way, is born in the universe. Kingdom Calendar Year 106, the Dragon of the Path descends onto this world. Kingdom Calendar Year 107, the dragon splits into 3, its empty shell becomes Kyurem, entering slumber deep within the giant's chasm. Kingdom Calendar Year 149, Kyurem acknowledges a human named Lucian, entrusting its power to him. The Dragon of the Path. Lucian stared blankly at the biography. As a transmigrator, he knew well the legend of Unova's original dragon, the strongest dragon, the ancestor of Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem. The legend said the original dragon split due to some great calamity. Its truth became Reshiram, its ideals became Zekrom, and its empty body became Kyurem. A thought sparked in Lucian's mind. If he found both Reshiram and Zekrom, could Kyurem fuse with both again to return to its original form? Logically, yes. But in the games and anime, the full original dragon had never been depicted. Still curious, Lucian whispered, "Kyurem."
Inside its pokeball, Kyurem's eyes snapped open.
If I can find Reshiram and Zekrom, can you fuse with them? The three becoming one again? At this, Kyurem fell into a deep silence. A long moment passed before its ancient voice finally answered. My power alone is insufficient. Reshiram and Zekrom have been awakened by the will of humanity.
They now possess their own souls and consciousness. Unless a human exists who carries both Reshiram's truth and Zekrom's ideals within their heart, and gains the approval of both dragons and mine as their empty shell, only then will the three parts willingly merge to restore the original dragon. That path has unimaginable difficulty. Kyurem didn't voice the final part, but Lucian understood. Even if he found Reshiram and Zekrom, even if he convinced them to stand with him, they would almost certainly refuse to fuse together. Each had become a complete dragon of its own will. Lucian exhaled softly, a faint sadness rising in his chest. So the strongest dragon of legend, the true original dragon, was something he would likely never see. A pity. Lucian couldn't help feeling a deep sense of regret. Just then, a sharp, clear knocking echoed through the quiet night. The three swords of justice immediately tensed, their instincts on high alert. Lacunosa village was utterly silent after dark. Not a single voice. Not a single footstep. Because of that silence, the knocking sounded unnaturally loud, wrong. Ominous. A single thought flashed through Lucian's mind. The man-eating monster has come again. He jumped to his feet, moved quietly to the door, and peeked through a thin crack. Snow was falling outside. Soft flakes drifting down through a fierce, icy wind. Snow, in June. Impossible for natural weather. Unless something had brought the cold with it. The monster is here again? Tarakian murmured. Most likely, Lucian replied, expression dark. Based on the creature's pattern, it was due to appear again within the next few days. Before leaving this region, he had to resolve this threat to protect the villagers, to clear Kyurem's name, and to secure Lacunosa village, a future training ground for Ice-type Pokémon and a resource hub for his people. Ice-types could preserve food in a world without refrigerators. They were invaluable. Thinking this, Lucian pushed the wooden door open. Whoosh! A blast of cold air rushed past, and the knocking throughout the village fell silent instantly. Through the swirling snow, Lucian's eyes sharpened. There, in front of a nearby house, floated a kimono-clad figure, drifting weightlessly like a spirit. Frostless. It had been knocking for a long time, but no one inside had dared to answer. Hearing another door open behind it, the creature turned. Its eyes fixed immediately on Lucian. In that instant, Frostless's gaze brightened. Such a beautiful prey. A perfect decoration for its icy lair. Someone it could freeze and cherish forever. Fru, lass. Its soft, ghostly cry drifted through the frost. It began gliding toward Lucian, its movements graceful and seductive, as if beckoning him closer. But just before it reached freezing distance, three shadows leaped out behind Lucian. Virizion. Cobalion. Tarakian. Their expressions were complicated, pity, anger, and solemn understanding. Frostless froze midair, startled. Fro? Stop, Frostless, Lucian said calmly as he stepped forward. Don't harm the villagers anymore. But the ice/ghost type instantly sensed Lucian's strength and panicked. It spun around, turning to flee into the blizzard. Lucian reacted immediately. He snatched Dragonite's Pokeball from his belt, released it, and jumped onto the dragon's back in one fluid motion. Dragonite, after it. He didn't intend to capture Frostless. What he needed was to follow it, to track it to its lair, and find the villagers it had abducted. Whoa! Dragonite let out a ringing cry, then shot into the sky, wings beating against the storm. The three swords of justice followed close behind, racing across the snow-covered ground. Chapter 140, Sealing. Having a flying Pokémon truly made all the difference. Lucian rode on Dragonite's back high above the ground, the forests, towns, and mountains spreading out like a map beneath them. "It's a pity Kyurem can't fly, at least not in this form," Lucian muttered.
If it could, he absolutely would have tried riding a legendary Pokémon through the sky. But unlike Groudon, who simply couldn't fly, Kyurem could, if it fused with Reshiram or Zekrom, becoming White Kyurem or Black Kyurem.
But now wasn't the time for daydreaming. Lucian refocused on the fleeing figure below. Frostless drifted swiftly through the trees, gliding across the snow-laden forest before disappearing into a cave halfway up the mountain.
Found it. Dragonite, that cave. Woo! Dragonite swooped down, landing directly at the cavern entrance.
The moment it saw them, the Frostless leaped out defensively, shrieking sharply.
Frulas! Frostless, stop! You mustn't harm the people of Lacunosa village. Lucian called out.
At that moment, the three swords of justice arrived, forming a line behind him. Seeing herself surrounded, Frostless panicked and lashed out. With a sweep of her kimono sleeve, she unleashed a freezing gust of wind straight at Lucian.
Dragonite, fire punch! Dragonite's fist ignited with blazing flames and punched directly through the frost, smashing into Frostless's face.
The fragile ice/ghost type was thrown backward instantly.
Fru! Realizing she couldn't win, she attempted to flee deeper into the cave. But Lucian wouldn't allow it.
Before he even moved, Terrakion, Cobalion, and Virizion stepped forward, blocking the entrance.
Frostless, she cried in frustration, trapped.
The three swords subdued her easily and followed Lucian into the cave.
Inside, the lair was horrifyingly beautiful. Crystalline ice coated the floor and walls like a palace of frozen glass.
Further ahead stood human figures, men, women, even children, frozen solid.
Their final expressions of terror were perfectly preserved in ice.
These sculptures were arranged like ornaments.
Those are. Cobalion's eyes hardened.
The villagers Frostless has abducted over the years, Lucian said quietly.
A complex feeling twisted in his chest.
This was the first time since transmigrating that he had witnessed Pokémon harming humans up close.
Of course, just because the anime never showed it didn't mean it never happened. Everything had two sides. And honestly, Frostless could have chosen to live peacefully with a human she liked. Instead, she froze them and kept them as decorations. No wonder people of this era feared magical beasts. This era is to blame, Lucian murmured. Humans and Pokémon barely understand each other. Fear breeds violence, on both sides.
He had created a small utopia within his territory, but changing the entire world alone was nearly impossible.
One person's power is limited. Lucian knew it well. Suddenly, Kyurem's voice echoed in his mind. These humans are not entirely dead. Lucian's eyes widened.
He looked at the frozen villagers again, realization dawning.
Humans in this world were not like the ones in his previous life.
Here, a human could survive a 100,000-volt thunderbolt, a massive explosion, the heat of a flamethrower. Their bodies were absurdly durable.
Larvesta, use flamethrower on the sculptures. Lucian released Larvesta. Larvae. A stream of scorching flames hit the ice statues, melting them rapidly into puddles of water.
The villagers revived, coughing and shivering violently.
Master Beast Master. You came to save us, a trembling man cried.
Yes. The village chief sent me, Lucian nodded.
Tears filled their eyes. Lucian exhaled in relief, they survived.
But those who had been taken decades ago.
Sadly, not all could be saved.
Seeing her decorations melt, Frostless screamed with fury, her face contorted in rage. Cobalion, Terrakion, Virizion, escort these villagers back to the village.
Understood. Lucian turned to the shaken survivors. These three noble magical beasts are my allies. They will protect you.
Go with them, and be safe.
Thank you, Beast Master.
The villagers bowed repeatedly and followed the swords of justice out of the cave. Soon, only Lucien and the Frostless remained.
Frostless.
She looked at him helplessly as her captured humans left, her expression furious yet powerless.
Frostless, do you understand the gravity of what you've done? Lucien asked quietly. Frostless.
She snarled, baring her icy fangs in defiance.
You really like humans, don't you? Lucien suddenly asked.
The question stunned Frostless.
She froze, her eerie blue eyes wavering. Like humans?
Of course she did, those handsome men were simply too beautiful in her eyes.
She couldn't resist their charm.
She only wanted to keep them close, forever.
Lucien shook his head. Your affection is built on hurting others. That's not love.
That's selfish desire.
Frostless fell silent.
If you truly loved a human, Lucien continued softly, there were better ways. You could have approached them slowly, become friends, become family. You could have lived with them, worked with them, shared meals with them, day after day, night after night. That way, you'd have a companion who talks to you, laughs with you, keeps you company.
Not a silent, lifeless ice sculpture sitting in a corner. You wouldn't be lonely anymore. Frostless's expression trembled. Frou. So now, Lucien asked gently, do you understand that what you did was wrong? Frostless.
She clenched her spectral hands, refusing to admit it. She liked decorating her nest with beautiful men.
What was wrong with that? Lucien sighed.
Kiram's deep, ancient voice rumbled inside Lucien's heart.
Even I am at a loss with this one. Lucien exhaled.
He couldn't bring himself to kill her. But releasing her meant she might harm the villagers again, and he had no right to speak on behalf of those who had died.
He needed another solution. He thought for a long moment, and then remembered one of Kiram's signature abilities. Seal. Kiram, Lucien asked telepathically, can your seal work on her? Of course, Kiram answered. What do you plan to do? I can't kill her.
But I also can't forgive her for the dead. So, I want to seal her until she understands her mistakes.
Kiram gave a low rumble of approval. A wise choice, very well.
I will seal her with my power, until the day she repents. The air suddenly chilled.
Kiram materialized beside them, its towering form radiating ancient frost.
Frostless took one look at the legendary dragon, and sheer terror twisted across her face.
Kiram didn't speak. It only snorted coldly.
A flash of icy light filled the cave. And Frostless vanished. In her place lay a single ice stone, radiating a frigid aura.
Lucien knelt and picked it up.
Frostless, he said gently, I'll take you to a human village. There, you'll watch humans and Pokémon live together.
You'll listen.
You'll observe. When you truly understand what you've done, the seal will break, and you'll regain your freedom.
The ice stone, of course, remained silent. Lucien mounted Dragonite and flew back toward Lacunosa village.
By the time he arrived, the villagers had already reunited with their found loved ones, crying, hugging, laughing in relief. When Lucien landed, the village chief and several elders immediately knelt before him.
Master Beastmaster. Thank you for saving everyone.
We have nothing valuable, but please, take anything you want.
Lucien resisted the urge to sigh.
They treated him like an RPG protagonist rummaging through treasure chests in every house. He shook his head. Instead, he pulled out the ice stone and handed it to the village chief. Place the stone somewhere in the village.
From now on, no one will disappear again.
The chief blinked.
Master, what is this? Lucien clarified. The monster that came at night wasn't Kiram.
The chief inhaled sharply, surprised, relieved, and ashamed of the misunderstanding. He quickly accepted the stone with reverence. Master Beastmaster, please stay longer, we haven't thanked you properly.
No need.
I have other matters to handle, Lucien replied.
Then, please travel safely. Lucien recalled Bouffalant, and the three swords of justice voluntarily returned to their Pokeballs for convenience.
In this era, Pokeballs were just containers. They couldn't capture or subdue Pokémon, but they made transportation far easier.
Lucian leaped onto Dragonite's back with a powerful flap of its wings. FOOM.
They shot into the sky, heading straight toward Lucian City. That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated to a Medieval Pokémon World.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.